Princess Lyris stood near the tall crystal windows of her palace. The stars looked calm and beautiful, but her heart felt heavy. Tonight was not like the other nights. Tonight she would be married to a human. Her people, the Xerithians, had always seen themselves as wise and advanced. Their empire ruled many star systems. They had art, science, and traditions that stretched back thousands of years. But war was growing across the galaxy. Other powers wanted more land, more resources, more control. The Xerithian Empire could not fight alone anymore, so they made a deal with the humans of Earth. The humans were new to the Galactic Council, but were already known for being strong and clever. The Xerithian leaders agreed to form a bond, offered marriage between their royal family and a human representative. It was a symbol of peace, a way to build trust. Lyris didn't like it. She had never met a human before. She had read about them, how they came from a dangerous world full of storms, wild animals, and strange customs. Some said humans were kind. Others said they were violent and unpredictable. No one really knew. And now she had to marry one. The name of her husband, Stubby, was Dylan. He was not a noble, not a prince, not a leader. He was just a normal human. They said the humans didn't want to send a higher-ranking officer. They chose someone quiet, respectful, and low profile. The Xerithian court agreed. It would keep things simple. Lyris didn't understand. Why not send someone important, someone with power? As the doors of the throne room opened, she turned to look. Dylan stood at the end of the hall. He wore a simple, black uniform with no weapons, no medals, nothing to show his rank. He looked calm. His brown hair was short, his eyes focused, but not proud. He bowed low before the Emperor and Empress. Then he looked at her. Lyris kept her face still. She didn't want to show her feelings. She studied him. He was not tall like the Xerithian males. His muscles were strong, but he didn't show them off. He looked ... quiet. Maybe even boring. The wedding was short. There was no celebration, no music, no grand feast. Only a few words, a few symbols, exchanged. It was done. After the ceremony, Dylan followed her silently through the palace halls. She led him to his new room. They didn't speak much. "This will be your place," she said coldly. "Thank you," Dylan replied. His voice was calm, low, and respectful. She waited for him to say something more. Maybe ask about the Empire. Maybe talk about the marriage. Maybe show interest in her. But he didn't. He just looked at the room, nodded once, and sat down. Days passed. Lyris watched him from afar. He spent time walking through the gardens, reading about Xerithian history, asking polite questions, too. The palace staff. He ate quietly. He trained alone in the morning's simple moves, slow and focused. No weapons, no aggression. Everyone laughed behind his back. "This is the mighty human," one noble whispered. They said humans were dangerous. "He's a shadow," another said. "Not even fit to hold a sword." Lyris didn't laugh. She didn't speak against him either. But deep inside, she wondered the same thing. One evening, while she was walking toward her chambers, she heard a sharp sound, metal scraping. Soft thud, then silence. She stopped. 2 palace guards were on the floor, not moving. A third figure rushed toward her with a weapon raised. Before she could scream, Dylan appeared from the shadows. His movements changed in an instant. His body dropped low, rolled forward, grabbed the attacker's wrist, twisted it, and slammed him into the wall. The weapon flew across the hall. Dylan kicked it away, then stepped back. He didn't say a word. Lyris stared at him. Her heart pounded. The palace guards came running, too late. "Take him," Dylan said, pointing at the attacker. His voice was still calm, but there was something behind it now. Something cold. The attacker was dragged away. Lyris stood frozen. "Are you hurt?" Dylan asked her. "No," she whispered. "But ... Are you just your husband?" He replied simply, then walked away. That night, she couldn't sleep. Who fights like that? Who moves like that? She began to ask questions. But every report she checked showed the same thing. Dylan was no one special. Born on Earth, served as a regular security officer. No battle medals, no special training. So why did he move like a warrior? The next morning, she followed him quietly. He walked beyond the palace, toward the old training halls. She watched from above. He closed the door behind him, thinking no one was there, but she had already activated the cameras. On the screen, she saw him open a small case hidden under the floor. Inside, it was a black suit, not a normal one, but a sleek, battle-worn armor with no markings. He put it on piece by piece like he had done it 1,000 times before. Then he began to move. His steps were smooth, deadly. He practiced drills no Xerithian had ever seen. Each motion was sharp, fast, perfect. This was no common human. This was someone trained to kill. She turned off the camera, her hands shaking. The prophecy of her people had always spoken of a warrior who would one day protect the empire from a great threat. They said he would arrive from a place of chaos. They said he would not wear a crown, but he would carry the strength of 100 soldiers. And now she was starting to wonder, had the warrior already arrived? The next day, Princess Lyris acted as if nothing had happened. But inside, her mind was filled with questions. She couldn't forget the way Dylan moved, the way he fought. No common man could do that, not even the Empire's best soldiers, and that armor hidden under the training hall. Why would he have something like that? Still, she said nothing. Not yet. Dylan returned to his quiet routine. He walked through the palace gardens each morning, spoke politely to the staff, and sometimes stood for hours watching the stars from the high towers. He never bragged, never showed anger, and never brought attention to himself. But now, Lyris saw him differently. She watched him more closely, how he scanned every hallway before stepping forward, how he kept his back to walls when he rested, how he always seemed to know when someone was nearby. These were habits of a soldier. Not just any soldier, but one who had seen many battles and lived through danger. One evening, she decided to speak with him directly. "Dylan," she said as they sat in the silent garden, "can I ask you something? ... personal? ... He looked at her and nodded, of course. "Have you ever been in war?" He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Yes." "What kind of war?" she asked softly. He looked away, toward the night sky. "The kind where you lose people, where you stop counting how many enemies you faced." Lyris felt a chill in her chest. "But your record says you were never part of any major battle group." "That record is correct," he replied. "Officially, then unofficially. Then unofficially." He looked at her again, his eyes calm but firm. "There are parts of human history that are not shared with the galaxy. Secret missions. Teams. That don't exist on paper. We were used when no one else could do the job. I was part of one of those teams." Lyris stared at him. "Why hide that?" "Because I left that life behind," he said. "I didn't want to be a weapon anymore." "Then why marry me?" she asked, her voice a mix of hurt and curiosity. "Was this part of a mission?" "No," he said firmly. "When I heard about the marriage treaty, I volunteered. I had a feeling. Something was coming. Something your people weren't ready for. I didn't come to spy. I came to protect." Lyris stood in silence. She didn't know whether to be angry, afraid, or thankful. "I don't want power," Dylan added. "I don't care about your throne. But if danger comes, I won't stand by and watch." The next morning, news came from the outer systems. A Xerithian colony had gone silent. No messages, no signals, no escape pods. It was like the whole moon had vanished. The High Council met in secret. The generals believed it was a pirate attack, or maybe a system failure. But Dylan listened quietly, then spoke up. "It's not pirates," said. The generals turned to him, some annoyed. "How would you know?" one asked sharply. "Because pirates don't erase a colony in one night without a trace," he said. "This is military precision. Fast, silent, complete." "You think this was war?" Lyris asked. "I think it was a test," he answered. The generals laughed. "A test of what?" "Your weakness," Dylan said simply. "Someone is checking how long it takes for you to notice." how long before you respond, and how strong your response will be. And what would you suggest we do, human? Noble asked with a smirk. Dylan stood up. Send me. The room fell silent. Send you alone? One voice asked, almost laughing. Yes, Dylan replied. I'll find out who or what did this. If it's a threat, I'll report back. If it's worse, I'll stop it. Lyris felt her chest tighten. You can't go alone. I can. He said, I've done worse. After a long pause, the Emperor agreed. Dylan was given a small scout ship, basic sensors, no weapons, just enough fuel for a short-range jump. It looked weak, but Dylan didn't complain. Before he left, Lyris met him near the launch bay. Why are you doing this? She asked. Because your people are not ready, he said. And because you are. She looked into his eyes, seeing something she hadn't noticed before. Not coldness, not danger, but sadness. Deep, quiet sadness. He gave her a small nod and stepped into the ship. Hours passed, then a day, then two. No word. Lyris waited in her chambers, eyes fixed on the stars. Then the signal came. A single message from Dylan. Not pirates. Not an empire. Something older. Something buried. I'll delay them. Tell your council to prepare. And silence again. Lyris rushed to the council. She showed them the message. But many doubted it. One human can't delay an ancient enemy. They said, this must be a trick. What she believed. And in her heart, she knew one thing for sure. Her husband was no simple man. He was the warrior. The one the prophecy spoke of. And he was fighting alone to save them all. The palace halls felt colder without Dylan. Princess Lyris walked them each day, hoping to hear something, any message, any news, but there was nothing. The only sign of him was that last short message he sent before silence. The council had seen it. Some believed him, others still called it nonsense. They were split, and that made them slow. No fleet was sent. No defense was built. Only the royal system patrol was placed on alert. Lyris felt helpless. Her people were waiting, but they didn't even know what they were waiting for. She visited the training hall again, where Dylan had once trained in secret. This time she went alone. She walked to the hidden panel he had opened. With some effort, she managed to lift it. The armor was still there. A few tools, strange weapons, and a worn-out datapad rested inside the case. She picked it up and turned it on. Surprisingly, it didn't ask for a code. It opened with a soft beep. Inside were logs, not personal ones, but mission reports, short and clear. Target cleared. 0 civilian loss. Extraction clean. Planetary. Facility disabled. Enemy weapons destroyed. Casualties minimal. Hundreds of them. Places she had never heard of. Missions that no Zarathian would ever dare to try. Then she saw one that made her stop. Operation Black Sun. Deep infiltration into the Vakrith zone. Results incomplete. Threat not eliminated. Recommendation: high caution. Vakrith. That name had not been spoken in years. A species from outside the galaxy. Records said they had vanished before the Zarathian Empire even began. They were large, cold, and merciless. Some said they were more machine than living thing. Others said they were shadows that took form. But all the stories agreed on one thing: the Vakrith destroyed without reason, and Dylan had gone after them. She rushed to the Grand Archives and searched through the hidden files only the royal family could see. It took time, but she found one sealed document. It had been locked by her grandfather. It told a quiet truth. Centuries ago, the Vakrith were not destroyed. They had gone to sleep, buried under the far edge of the galaxy. A deep warning was passed down from ruler to ruler. If they wake, we must flee. No army can stop them. Only the one from the world of death may stand against them, Lyris sat. Back in silence, the world of death. It meant Earth, humans. And now she understood. Her marriage wasn't just a political move. Someone, maybe her father, maybe someone from Earth, had known. They had sent Dylan not to protect her, but to protect everyone. She stood and walked to the throne room. Her father, the Emperor, sat alone. He looked tired, older than she remembered. You knew, she said quietly. He looked at her and didn't answer. You knew about him. About the Vakrith. About the prophecy. He nodded slowly. Yes. Then why didn't you tell anyone? Because fear breaks empires, Lyris, he said. Because the galaxy had forgotten what real danger looks like. Till he reminded us. But he's gone, she said. We don't even know if he's still alive. The Emperor looked at her. Then we must believe he is. The next day, everything changed. A wave of panic swept across the outer systems. Scout ships vanished. Trade routes were cut off. Silent signals filled the void unreadable, cold, mechanical. Something was moving through space. Something big. The council called an emergency meeting. We must prepare defenses, one shouted. We need to call other empires for help, another said. But Lyra stood and raised her voice. No one will help us. Not yet. They think this is our problem. They don't believe the danger is real. What do you suggest, Princess? Noble asked. We follow Dylan's last signal, she said. We find him. They laughed again, like they always did, but she didn't wait for their permission. With the Emperor's quiet blessing, she gathered a small, cruel loyal guards, brave engineers, and one old Xerithian pilot who had once served during the border wars. She took one of the royal scouts. It's faster than most ships and strong enough for deep travel. They followed Dylan's path, jumping from system to system. Most were empty. Others were dark, like the stars had gone cold. Space felt wrong. Time felt slower than they found it. A broken asteroid field full of wrecked ships. Some human, some Xerithian. Many unknown, and at the Centura dark shape. It's like a fortress made from black steel and fire. The VAK's single quotes are, the crew watched in silence. No lights blinked from the dark ship. No life signals. Something was there. Something alive. Scan. Again, Lyris ordered. A faint signal appeared. Human code. That's him, she whispered. They moved closer, silent and slow. Then a warning light blinked. Something was locking on. Shields up. The pilot shouted. The ship shook to beam. Of cold energy hit them but didn't destroy them. It was a message, not a shot. A voice followed, deep and broken. Turn back. This world is ending. Lyris leaned forward. Open a channel. This is Princess Lyris of the Xerithian Empire. If Dylan hears me, we're here. We came for you. There was silence, then a reply. You shouldn't have come. We're not leaving without you, she said firmly. A moment passed. Then listen carefully, he said. I've slowed them down. But they're waking up faster now. If you want to survive, you must run. What about you? Hold the gate, he said, but you must warn the galaxy. They're not ready. No one is. We'll fight with you, she said. But he didn't answer. The signal faded. Lyris clenched her fists. This wasn't just a battle. This was the beginning of something far greater, and her husband was standing alone at the edge of it. Princess Lyris sat inside the scout ship, staring at the signal that had gone silent again. The crew around her waited for orders, but she was lost in thought. Dylan was alive. He was out there, standing between the galaxy and something ancient, something dangerous. But he told her to run. She couldn't. She gave the order to pull back. Not to flee, but to return and warn the others. The pilot obeyed, though he didn't agree. Should have dragged him out of there, he muttered. As they jumped through space, Lyris didn't answer. When they returned to the capital, the council was in chaos. Other outer colonies had gone quiet. Trade ships vanished. Signals were scrambled with static. Something was spreading across space faster than expected. And now, everyone was afraid. We must call the other empires, one noble shouted. The Thaleri, the Cronin, the Alrevians. If we don't ask for help now, we'll fall. Won't believe us, Lyris said. Then send proof, the Emperor declared. Lyris stepped forward. Send me. I'll speak to the leaders myself. They know me. They might not trust reports, but they might trust my words. The room went silent. The Emperor looked at her, then slowly nodded. Go! Take the signal logs, the scans, and every record we have of the Black Zone. Show them what's coming. Soon, her new journey began. She traveled from empire to empire. The Thaleri government listened politely, but gave no aid. The Cronin generals laughed, saying the Zirithians were weak and wanted protection. The Aurivians said their sensors showed nothing strange, so the threat must be small, or not real at all. It was the same everywhere. No one believed her. No one believed in the VAK's toit. After 2 weeks, she returned with an empty ship and a heavy heart. But something had changed. The palace guards were doubled. Towers now held strange-looking weapons, not Zirithian design. Human tech. The engineers had started building defenses based on old human battle files. The Emperor had opened secret archives to allow new strategies. They were preparing, but it still wasn't enough. Lyris walked into the war chamber. Her father stood beside several top commanders, studying a large map of the outer galaxy. "The black zone is growing," one general said. "We've lost 4 more systems." "And Dylan?" she asked. No one answered. She turned to her father. "We must bring him back." "He told you not to," the Emperor replied gently. "He didn't say he wanted to die there," she said. "He's buying us time, and now we're wasting it." She stared at the hologram showing the edge of the Vakrith zone. "I'm going back." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "This time you'll need more than a scout ship," she nodded. "I want a crew, a fast ship. I'm built for war, not talk." She got what she asked for, a human Zirithian hybrid vessel, recently completed with help from Earth's engineers. It wasn't large, but it was strong. Light armor, quick engines, and a human-style reactor that gave it extra speed. It carried both laser and ion weapons, and its walls were lined with eco-sensors to catch hidden threats. She named it the Ember Wing. The crew came from both sides: Zirithian pilots, human gunners, and one human scientist who had studied Vakrith signals. In secret for years, his name was Dr. Lewis. He was quiet but sharp. As they left orbit, the human turned to Lyris. "Do you know why the Vakrith sleep for centuries?" he asked. "No, because they don't see time like us," he said. "They think in long waves. When they wake, they don't rush. They spread slowly, silently, like a shadow." "How do you stop a shadow?" she asked. He looked at her, with light, or with something even darker. He jumped to the last known location where Dylan had sent a signal. The black zone had grown. It now covered dozens of systems, each full of drifting wrecks, dead planets, and quiet stars. They moved carefully. No sound, no signals. Then something moved. At first it looked like an asteroid, but it turned toward them and split open. A Vakrith ship. No lights, no windows, just metal and silence. Then came the beams. Cold white lines shot across space, grazing the Ember wings. Shields, evasive. "Act!" The pilot shouted. The ship spun, twisted, and dropped into a low orbit around a ruined moon. The Vakrith ship followed, but didn't attack again. "They're watching, Doctor," Lewis said. "Testing us. Can we outrun them?" Lyris asked. "We can try, or we can show them we're not weak." Lyris gave the order. "Fire a warning." Shot. The Ember Wing's side cannon released a pulse of light, not strong enough to damage, but bright enough to be seen. The Vakrith ship paused. Then, from the darkness, came a message. "You are not him." Everyone looked at the screen. "What does that mean?" the pilot asked. "They know we're not Dylan," Lyris said. "They want him." Then another signal appeared, a human signal. Dylan single quotes his voice. "Leave. Now they're watching you. They won't kill you yet. They're saving that for me." Lyris jumped to the comms. "Where are you?" "Deep inside their heart. I found their command core. I've kept it busy feeding it false readings. Fake threats, making it waste its power. But they're catching on." "We came to get you," she said. "We brought a ship. We can break you out." "No, you don't get it," Dylan replied. "If I leave now, they'll spread. Thousands will die before we even fire a shot." "I need more time," Lyris clenched her fists. "Then tell us what to do." His voice softened. "Send this message to your empire. and to the humans. Tell them to prepare for war. No more peace talks. No more waiting. They're coming. And when they arrive, they'll bring the silence of stars. And what about you? I'll give you one last delay, he said. Then you run. Then the signal cut again. The Vakrith. Ship backed off slowly, disappearing into the black fog of space. On the Emberwings bridge, no one spoke. They all understood now. This wasn't a warning. This was the calm before the storm, and a single human warrior was standing alone between the galaxy and its doom. The Emberwing returned to Zerathian space, damaged but not broken. Princess Lyra stood at the front of the ship as it landed, her heart heavy with Dylan's final words. He had stayed behind again. He had chosen to be the wall between the Vakrith and the rest of the galaxy. She didn't know how much longer he could hold them. The message he sent was shared at once. Human leaders responded quickly. They believed him now. Deep space scouts had seen the strange signals and missing systems. For the first time, humans and Zerathians began preparing together for war. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. For days, messages flew across systems. Empires who once laughed at the idea of danger now begged for information. Panic was rising. Defenses were built. Alliances formed. And all the while, Lyris waited. Every day she stood in the signal chamber, hoping to hear Dylan's voice again, but the screen stayed quiet. One morning, the Emperor entered the chamber. "You've done all you could," he said gently. "Not yet," she replied. "You believe he's still alive?" "Yes," she said, "because he promised." The Emperor nodded. "Then we will fight beside him." That day, the largest project in the Empire's history began. It was not a weapon. It was not a ship. It was a gate. With help from human scientists, they began building a massive jump gate at the edge of Zerathian space. It would be strong enough to bring a fleet into the black zone close to where Dylan was. It would take weeks to finish, but once complete, they could send help, rescue him, or strike if needed. Lyris visited the construction site often. Ships flew in and out, carrying parts, fuel, and engineers. The project was moving fast, but not fast enough for her heart. Then came the signal. Not from Dylan, from the Vakrith. Single line of code, repeating, "We see you." The message played again and again, across every system. Screens turned black, then showed the same shape. A spiral made of metal and shadows. The Vakrith were sending a warning, or maybe a promise at the war hall. Human generals and Zerathian commanders gathered around the map. Lyra stood at the center. "We can't wait anymore," she said. "Once the gate is ready, we send everything." "What if it's a trap?" the general asked. "Then we walk into it," she said, "because the longer we wait, the more systems fall." They all agreed. The fleet began to form, humans with their sharp, fast warships, Zerathians with their elegant, wide vessels. Each ship was armed, ready, and filled with soldiers who knew the risks. Lyra stood on the bridge of the Emberwing once more. This time, she wore light armor, gifted to her by Earth. It was not heavy, but it had strong plating and a hidden pulse shield. She was not going to lead from behind. The gate opened with a loud hum, glowing with quiet blue light. "Ready to jump," the pilot said. She looked at the fleet. "Let's go get 'em." One by one, the ships jumped on the other side. Darkness waited. The black zone had changed. Metal fragments floated everywhere like broken wings. Old stations had been pulled apart. Planets had been drained, turned into glass. But deep inside that darkness, there was fire, explosions, lights, movement. They found him. Dylan's signal flared bright and clear. He was alive and fighting. They pushed forward, contact with enemy ships. Someone shouted. VA's ships moved like shadows. They didn't use normal engines. They didn't fire like others. Their weapons were cold beams of energy that cut without heat. But the fleet was ready. Lasers lit the black sky. Explosions shook the dark. The Emberwing sped ahead. "We have his location," the pilot called. "He's deep in the wreck field." "Go," Lyris ordered. "Get us there." Beside the wreckage, they found him. Dylan's armor was scratched, burned, and dented. but he stood tall on a ruined Vakrith ship, holding a strange weapon made of human metal and alien tech. It looked like something he had built himself. The Emberwing landed fast. Lyris stepped out. "You always wait until the last second," she said, half smiling. Dylan turned, surprised. "You came back? You really thought I wouldn't?" He smiled, weak but proud. "They're waking up faster." "We don't have much time. We brought a fleet," she said. "And a message for you." "What message?" "We're done running." The sky above them lit up with fire. The Vakrith fleet had arrived. Hundreds of black ships. But the humans and Zerathians were ready. They formed into battle lines, moved with perfect timing, and struck hard. The war had truly begun. Lyris and Dylan stood together on the Emberwing's bridge as the ship rose into the fight. He took the co-pilot seat, his eyes scanning the stars. "How many of them are there?" she asked. "Too many," he said. "But not more than us. You think we can win?" He looked at her. "We don't need to win today. We just need to make them regret waking up." She smiled. The battle raged. Fire met shadow. Metal tore through silence. And in the heart of the fight, human warrior and an alien princess stood. Side by side, not just as leaders, not just as partners, but as the light the galaxy had been waiting for. Human and Zerathian ships moved together in sharp formations. Red and blue lights flashed across the darkness, striking the black Vakrith ships. The enemy did not scream, did not send warnings. They only attacked cold and quiet, like machines. With one goal, to erase. On the Emberwing's bridge, Dylan stood beside Lyris, his eyes locked on the main screen. His armor was damaged, but his focus was sharp. Every move he made was fast and exact, like he had trained for this moment, his whole life. Vakrith ship, closing on the left. The pilot called, "Rotate shields, fire ion cannon." Dylan ordered the Emberwing spun just in time. Its cannon released a blast of light that hit the Vakrith ship directly. The enemy craft cracked in half and drifted away into the dark. "We need to get to their core," Dylan said. "They control everything from there. If we hit it, we weaken the whole fleet." "Where is it?" Lyris asked. "Under the central wreck field," he said. "But it's protected, too many enemy ships." "Then we fight through." She tapped the fleet channel. "This is Princess Lyris," she said. "We found the Vakrith core. All ships follow the Emberwing. We punch through the center. Protect the flanks. This is our chance." The fleet moved like one living. Things Zerathian gliders moved with grace. Human destroyers slammed through enemy walls. Together they pushed forward, but the Vakrith did not stop. They sent wave after wave. Their ships were silent and strange. Some looked like giant spiders, made of black glass. Others were smooth, with no wings or engines, just floating death. Dylan watched every movement, calling out threats and guiding the fleet. He was not shouting orders. He was leading like a ghost from the past, human warrior trained in secret battles. Now showing the galaxy what he truly was, the Emberwing reached the edge of the core. A massive black structure floated in the center of the wreck field. It looked like a fortress, shaped like a broken star. Strange lights flickered along its side, symbols that made no sense, sounds that felt like echoes in the mind. "That's it," Dylan said. "Their command center." "How do we break it?" Lyris asked. "With this," he said, holding up a small device. "This is what I've been building. It uses human tech, but it's tuned to their frequency. I just need to place it on the core, then it'll overload their systems. You're not going alone." He looked at her. "You shouldn't risk it. We stand together," she said, "always." He gave her a quiet nod. A small shuttle was launched. Inside, only Dylan, Lyris, and 2 guards. They flew through the wreckage as the main fleet kept the Vakrith busy. The shuttle dodged falling debris and silent fire. When they reached the core, the hatch opened. Dylan jumped out first, his boots hitting the surface with a soft thud. Lyris followed, her heart beating fast. The surface of the Vakrith core felt cold even through the armor. They moved toward a strange opening, like a black door that breathed in and out. "This way," Dylan said. Inside, the walls were made of smooth metal, but they shifted like they were alive. Lights blinked on and off in strange patterns. No guards. No sound, just silence. They reached the center of a dark room filled with floating crystals and wires that moved like vines. "Here," Dylan said, walking to the base of the largest crystal. He placed the device down and pressed a button. A soft hum started. It grew louder, shaking the floor. "It's working," he said. Then the walls screamed, not with sound, but with pressure, light, and movement. The core began to shift. Parts of the ceiling closed in. Spikes rose from the ground. The Vakrith had noticed. "Run," Dylan shouted. They ran back through the halls, the walls closing behind them. Spike scratched Lyris's arm, but she didn't stop. They reached the shuttle and took off as the core behind them began to crack. The device exploded. A wave of white energy burst from the center. Rippling through the wreck field, Vakrith ships froze. Some collapsed, others began to drift without power. On the fleet's main channel, cheers broke out. The core is down. They're retreating. On the Ember Wing, the crew watched as the black ships turned and fled into the dark, vanishing one by one. For now, the battle was over. On the shuttle, Lyris looked at Dylan. "You did it?" He shook his head. "We did it." They returned to the Ember Wing, where both humans and Xerithians waited.
Oh.
The crew clapped and saluted. They had seen something unforgettable, a human warrior and an alien princess, side by side leading them to victory. Days later, back at the capital, the Emperor welcomed them with open arms. The war was not over, but the first great battle had been won, the galaxy now believed. The Vakrith were real, and so was the warrior from the world of death in the days that followed. Lyris and Dylan helped build a new defense Force One made. From both races, humans taught fast tactics. Xerithians shared deep wisdom. The fleet became one, and in the hearts of many. A story spread, a story of a human no one believed in, and a princess who stood beside him even when no one else would. They weren't just married by treaty, they were bound by purpose. And as they stood on the balcony of the palace, watching the stars above, Lyris whispered, "I never expected the truth." "What truth?" Dylan asked with a smile. "That my husband was the warrior the galaxy was waiting for. He took her hand, and I never expected the princess to be the one who made me believe in peace again." The stars were quiet, but now they were watched by those ready to protect them. Together,